So someone asked me for a little comparison of the Shark locks versus the compression locks. So the Spyderco Compression Lock, we've got a Shaman, a Smock, a couple PM2s, a PM3, and another Smock. Down here, we've got an 8020, an 8020S, a Flytanium Arcade, not a Demko, but also a Shark Lock, licensed by Demko, and then three 8020.5s. So the compression lock by Spyderco is on the back of the knife. So after you deploy the knife, you need to compress the lock bar. And people like it because you're holding the handle of the knife in a manner that when you release the blade, your fingers, unlike a liner lock where your thumb is in the way of the path of the blade, there is nothing, none of your flesh is in the path of the blade. So as you flip that thing down, your fingers are essentially safe. The Smock is a little bit of a variation on the compression lock because it's a button-operated compression lock. So you've still got the lock bar that you're compressing. But the difference being you're using a button instead of having to put your finger in through the scale to push that compression lock. The PM2s, they're a standard compression lock. This one is a Tano. Same thing, hold, and allow it to fall. My Shaman's got a little bit stiffer action than the PM2s. These have the second detent ball in, the two PM2s. This PM3 does not, so it definitely really falls shut. Some people not a fan of that, but but that's the compression lock. That's how that works. So this PM3, it doesn't have that second detent ball, but the one thing I wanted to touch on with the compression lock was most people use the compression lock only for returning the knife back to the closed position. So after you deploy the knife, you then release the blade with the compression lock. Where the big difference, I think, between the compression lock and the Shark Lock is the Shark Lock is very often used to deploy the blade. So the Shark Lock is on the spine of the knife, so it's very similar to a backspacer. It's sandwiched between the two scales of the knife. On the titanium, they're linerless. The G10 versions of the 8020.5 have liners, but it's the same Shark Lock bar. So the lock bar still slides between either the liners or the scales of the knife. On the big boys, the carbon versions have liners. And you can see that Shark Lock bar slides between the liners. The titanium do not have liners. So there's just a Shark Lock bar between the two titanium scales. So these knives, the way they work, when you push down on that Shark Lock bar, it actually is the spring of the Shark Lock is the detent that holds the blade in. So obviously when you start opening a knife, there's some spring to hold that blade in. And as you can see, the Shark Lock is coming down a little bit. So I can reverse flick, I can open this knife like a normal one-handed thumb open. But when you pull the Shark Lock down, it will actually slightly deploy that blade because you're essentially, you're I guess, eliminating the detent. And it mechanically will, even if you're holding the knife so that gravity is not going to pull the blade down, you can see it begins to move that blade ever so slightly, which is why you're releasing that detent, why giving that wrist flick as you pull the Shark Lock back is so satisfying. And it's such a neat way to deploy the knife. So it's not something that you typically do with the compression lock. Like, I think you could do it, but it's very awkward, and you've got a very thin pinch on the scale of the knife. You can do it. You can definitely do it. It's just not as ergonomic. And depending on how loose the blade is, it's very doable. It's just not near as natural and ergonomic as the Sharklock flick, and not near as fidgety. Just I don't know, the fidget factor of a Sharklock is awesome. Might not be for everybody, but every Sharklock knife that I've picked up has that same satisfying deployment. No lock stick on any of these. I've not ever experienced a lock stick on a Sharklock knife. This is a 20.5 that I've modified. This blade actually came on the G10 that I bought, and then I moved it into that textured titanium handle. One of the guys on the Demko group has some lathe action there with the Damascus stud, and then also grabbed this off one of the guys, a Damascus clip. But as far as action goes, I mean, these are fall shot. You pull that Sharklock back. If you do your thing as far as timing goes, they're flawless. I mean, you can hold the Sharklock back and cause it to quote unquote stick, but I wouldn't call that any sort of failed action or sticking lock bar. Yeah, I don't know. And these are all identical as far as that goes. This one needs some oil. You can hear a bit of squeak there. No fault of the knife. It's me. But yeah, that's the Demko Shark Lock. Extremely strong, extremely fidgety, super fun way to deploy a knife, and yeah, I don't know. I'm a fan. Obviously, I'm a fan of both types of locks, so I don't really have one that I'm fighting for or against. I just kind of wanted to highlight the differences between the compression lock and the Demko Shark Lock. This is a pretty neat smock. This has got a mirror polished blade, some custom scales. Pretty fun one. But yeah, definitely favorite knives on both rows of the table. But yeah, I wouldn't throw any shade at the Sharklock at all. Big fan of it. But that's a good. I don't know if it's a good video. You guys be the judge of that. But a video going over the differences between the compression lock and the Sharklock. So, got any questions? Let me know. Happy to try to help answer any of them. But hope that highlights some of the differences between the two locks.